Hello traders, this is Rich from Tradesight. This is the look at our market preview for the coming session. This is for Wednesday, October 23rd, 2013. The ES was higher by 11 on the day. Nasdaq barely eked out a gain, which was kind of a save considering the smashing that the high beta stocks took on the day. The advanced declines were positive on the New York side by a decent amount, but just kind of barely above water on the Nasdaq. Here's a look at your ES futures, which are now 9 days up in the secret count and also into the 8/8 level at 1750. This should provide key resistance and be the level to beat for the current push to the upside. Supports can be found at Friday's low, and then next at the gap window here at about 1730 and a half. Looking at the Nasdaq futures have a 13 exhaustion in place. The risk level was used today intraday, and that did repel price to the downside. We did cover the range of the previous day, but we didn't really have a classic outside day down, though we did have certainly a negative day. Negative day was on a little bit lighter volume here in the ES futures, so the 7/8 level is definitely going to be very important. If we break to the downside, key support is going to be at 33.22 or so. To the upside, the 8/8 level at 34.3750 will come into play. Here's a look at the 10-day trend. The 10-day trend is still in the neutral area and actually trying to get down towards that overbought 0.85 threshold. The S&P TLT cross is still refusing to make a new high, even though equities are lifting because bonds are also on the rise. Today, this key ratio actually made a little bit of a negative move to the downside because the bonds were relatively more strong than the overall broad market, which is a cause for concern. The best sector on the day was definitely the XAU. The XAU had pretty good move to the upside here. You can see that if you just picture the regression channel that's forming here, they're actually at the upper cusp of it. While the BTK was positive, the banking index BKX and also the SOX were fairly weak today. Looking at the sectors ranked from best to worst, by far the best index on the day was the XAU. The housing index was also fairly strong. BTK, as we talked about before, was fairly strong. Now, if we look at the lagging sectors, the BKX was right down there. The internet sector was really weak, especially with the performance out of Netflix today. The semiconductors were weak, and the broker-dealers were weak. So definitely not really a homogeneous day where you want to see the S&P moving to a new high, at least intraday on the move. Leadership that you don't want at this point is you don't want the leadership from the XAU. You really want to see it from the transports and from the oil index, and that was not what we got today for sure. Here's a look at the gold futures. The gold futures were very positive on the day, making a little bit of a better pivot to the upside here. We stopped at that key area where we meet the 7/8 Murray Math level, also with the 50 DMA. If we release to the upside a little bit further, 1375 at the 8/8 level will come into play. To the downside, near-term support is going to be this multi-day low here. Below that, the 5/8 level at 1281. Moving on to the oil futures. Here's a look at the crude futures. The crude futures definitely made a notable move today. They broke below the 200 DMA on a closing basis. Now, that does not mean that the 200 DMA has been lost. As we always say, the 200 DMA likes to be gamed, so we got to be prepared for that. If we pivot back to the upside, we're going to have resistance at the 100 level, which is the 4/8 level. Support below. Next level is 3/8 at 96 and 7/8. Looking at the individual sectors, the top gun on the day was the XAU. The XAU is going to have some key resistance right here. This is the static trend line that's active from the seeker count to the downside in the setup phase, and also the 50 DMA. If it can release to the upside, the XAU is going to have next resistance at the 100 level, and support's going to be at the day's low from Tuesday, coming in about 94.95. BKX was the last lagger on the day. BKX is still having trouble with the 8/8 level, as should be expected since it's such a formidable level. So key resistance here at 8/8 remains. If we release to the upside, the static trend line is not too much higher, so we're going to have some overhead there at about $66. To the downside, the next real level is going to be the 10 EMA. That's coming in at about 64.5. The OSX today was up about 1%. It's 8 days up now. It just nudged above the plus 2 ways level. So what this is going to do is it's going to frame shift this box to the upside. So we're going to reset the GAN box, which is a positive development. But don't get too in love with this chart because we're going to be 9 days up if we have another update tomorrow. And that's going to start to arrest the ascent to the upside and start to pull back shares. Here's a look at the BTK, which remains relatively contained. Still above the 50 and the 10 EMAs, so that's a small positive. We're 7 days up now in this count, so make sure you're aware of that. The SOX printed 13 days up today. This is the chart that we're going to be closing with today, especially since we had some real weakness in some of the high beta names. 13 bars up is pretty notable. It's not a lot of extension. Here's candle 1 and here's candle 13, so it's not a lot of extension to the upside, but those 13s are always notable, and especially when they come in the area of an overbought territory on the GAN box. We are certainly there. Plus 1/8 right now at 507.81. Call it 502 is going to be 508 is going to be very important. Plus 2/8 is the next level of resistance, and that's going to be very, very strong if we pivot to the upside, especially since we're going to be 9 days up again. If we push up again in the coming session. To the downside, we're going to find pretty key support here at the 500 level. All right, folks. Well, as always, thanks for listening. This has been Rich for Tradesight.